Okay, everybody, how are you? This is from American Thinker. The suicide of the House is complete. The recent announcement by James Senenbrenner, the representative from Wisconsin, that he would not seek re-election in 2020 sparked new worries among the GOP that taking the House in 2020 might be nearly impossible. Although Senenbrenner's district should be safe, as should about half of the more than a dozen seats in districts where Republicans are retiring, it never helps to lose an incumbent. We need better incumbents. Maybe somebody will come up that the people can honestly trust. That said, in 2020, the control of the House may well near irrelevant. Over time, the House has had one major constitutional duty: the budget. All spending and taxation bills must originate in the House. But in all likelihood, the decline of the House started in 1999 when the newly elected Republican Congress under Newt Gingrich caved in to media pressure to give Bill Clinton his bloated budget. Since then, no House has even attempted to control deficit or the debt. For 8 years under George Bush, the rationale was to fund the war on terror. Then under Barack, the Democratic House had no intention of dealing with the deficit or debt. For 8 years under both Democrat and Republicans, nothing was done to recapture the budget process. Continuing resolutions were the rule of the day. Yeah, they still are, and they're getting even worse. Entered Nancy Pelosi, whose Congress openly and energetically vowed to do utterly nothing in the way of actual legislation, but instead to investigate and otherwise obstruct President Donald Trump. This marked the final transition of the House into irrelevance. Meanwhile, Trump marched through his presidency like Sherman through Georgia, canceling bad trade deals, negotiating new ones, imposing tariffs, and mostly recently building the wall. Yes, quietly, while everyone was watching Robert Mueller testify, Trump's reallocation of Department of Defense funds to build the wall was upheld, and the wall construction already started. In some places, been completed in California and Arizona. Trump predicted that fully 500 miles of the wall will be completed by 2020. And if I know a Trump, it just might be completed before 2020. And the House has nothing whatsoever to do with it. It would be possible for a Democrat House to pass a budget that would not be anything close to what the Senate would pass. Then fight it out in reconciliation and see a Trump unfriendly budget get vetoed. Right. Even if the Republicans lose a few more seats in 2020, they won't have a veto-proof majority. The House cannot override Trump veto. No, it can't. When it comes to another signature issued by Trump, judges Mitchell McConnell and the Senate had been a machine. Trump's appointees are chosen in a 30% of the federal bench totally, and more weight in the wings. Yes, he's putting judges in, I'm telling you. It is entirely possible that Trump will get at least one or perhaps more Supreme Court picks. Yes. What role does the House play in all of this? Absolutely none. Trump has already canceled NAFTA. In its place, he has negotiated a new trade agreement that must be approved by both the House and the Senate. But if the House refuses to act, NAFTA is still dead. The House can only confirm and add to Trump's power, not reduce it. Two rules apply here. Rule 1. A muscle that is not used atrophies. That's true. The House's constitutional muscle is budget making. If it has voluntarily abdicated that role, that role, who needs it? Rule 2. Nature abhors a vacuum. If the House doesn't pass immigration bills, as Trump has begged to, or add DACA, as Trump has begged to, or write a budget that Trump can sign, then it has consigned itself to irrelevance. I wrote this in some sadness. It certainly was not the founders' vision for the House to be the least relevant of the legislation process. And in the minds of many of the founders, it was to be the most democratic and responsive to people. They don't care about you people, come on. Once the House cedes its most fundamental responsibility, it was inevitable that those duties would be done by the executive. Therefore, it is entirely possible that some or many of the House retirees intuitively know that the House has become meaningless. They may well know, although the process was long in developing, Nancy Pelosi has turned the House of Representatives into the American equivalent of the House of Lords. Yes, that's what she thinks she is, but she is nothing. She's nothing, people, and this is good to hear. Thank you, and goodbye.